Hey, how's it going? So welcome to another one of my videos. In today's video, you find me in my home turf, that is Shoreditch. Well, actually this is Hoxton Square, but this is often considered by many to be the heart of Shoreditch. Over here is what made Shoreditch famous. This is the old White Cube Gallery. Now sadly, it's gone a little bit boring and it's just an office. But back in the day, art used to rule this place because this is where Damien Hirst had his most famous exhibition. I think there was the shark in the glass case. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk through from the streets from Shoreditch to the City of London. Try not to get run over. And also because it's a little bit sunny today and I haven't got my sunglasses on, try and stay in the shade. Actually maybe I won't. Maybe I'll squint in the sunshine because at the end of the day there's this so-called pandemic going on and we need to get as much vitamin D as possible, and as you can see from my pasty skin, I'm lacking in vitamin D lately because it really hasn't been many sunny days in the last couple of months. There's been this one, one about a week ago, and I can probably count them all on one hand in the last year how many sunny days we've had this year. Heading down Charlotte Road. This is an interesting street and also a very trendy street for Shoreditch, and yet just like Fleet Street, most of the establishments are closed. Hairdressers closed, this closed, whatever it was. There's a lot of businesses around here, a lot of tech industry. What you'll find is because they're all involved in tech, they're not really that adversely impacted, so they're all working from home. But it does mean that the vibe of the area has gone. Those businesses that require the footfall of people being in the area have sort of disappeared. And as you can see, this is a graffiti artist that you'll remember from my last video. This guy seems to have appeared on every single boarded up sign that has ever existed in London in the last few months. Every single boarded up sign he seems to be tagging. I'd love to know who he is. Let's continue this way. And this car eventually moves. One of my favourite pubs actually, when it eventually opens, this is the Bricklayers Arms, and it's actually one of the few pubs back in the day, in the early noughties when I first arrived in Shoreditch. There was a bit of commotion at the bar. Very crowded bar at the time, and I was looking around trying to work out what all the commotion was. I think it was a bit of a scuffle, people were pushing through. And it turned out the very pretty Kate Moss was drinking right in the bar, only 10 feet away. And that was my sort of first sort of connection that the area was quite trendy, and this was back in the early noughties. Now, a lot of people associate Shoreditch with it being trendy now. I hate to say that it's not. That buzz is long gone. Back in the day, this place had sort of, you know, it had originality, it had musicians, it had artists, but those people are long gone. The only people left in the area these days are the bankers who work in the city, the texters, and I call them texters, but I think this is a polite definition for a texter, but in my mind a texter is a hipster crossed with someone who's working in the tech sector. They work around here, but other than the odd artist who sort of passes through, all of the artists are gone because the area has become very unaffordable. That may change, of course, as property prices sort of collapse, but these buildings were very sought after at the end of the 90s, early noughties, when people started moving in. I have to be honest, I was one of them. And the area sort of gentrified. You know, back in the day, these used to be really sort of sketchy bars. I used to play DJ gigs in here, but not when it was at the Merchant's Tavern. Now Merchant's Tavern is a very upmarket restaurant. I can't remember what it was called before. This used to be some sort of, I remember it was a sleazy bar. Now it's a sort of upmarket Italian restaurant. Over here, this was one of Shoreditch's last ever World War II bomb sites. There was a hole in the ground for years, and then finally in the last sort of 3 to 4 years, they built this building, and it basically sort of, it kind of, let's cross. It kind of signaled the sort of the end of the shabbiness of the area. The bomb site vanished, and there was a car park and a sort of hole there. And now we have the Curio collection by Hilton, circa London. I mean, the only sort of sketchiness that we see around here is maybe the subway, but upmarket estate agents, another upmarket estate agent. Place I bought my property, Sterling Ackroyd. I was quite nervous when I first went in there. A lot of art galleries around here, but as you can see, the whole place is upmarket. It's not the sort of shabbiness that it used to be. Yes, there's graffiti. You see the graffiti over there, but it's really struggling to hold on to the shabbiness. I'm just going to walk to my favourite pub in the area, actually, and I'm really saddened by the fact that all of this is closed. Closed, galleries closed. I mean, I'm not sure they bring much to the area, in fairness, but let's have a look. This in my mind, I think is probably the best pub in Shoreditch. So if you're in Shoreditch and you feel like having a great beer, nice atmosphere, even that's done itself up, because this used to be really, really shabby. It used to always have amazing music in there, but it had sort of stained kind of red carpets, and now it's just like, it looks really glitzy inside, but thankfully they still have amazing beer, and it's a nice place. But what we're going to do, if we can bear the sunshine, is head up towards the city. One of the reasons I moved to this area originally, back in the early noughties, was because of its close proximity to the city. So yes, I was part of the financial market set that took over Shoreditch and probably pushed out the artists. Although I'd like to think I was part of that. You know, I was regularly playing DJ sets all over Shoreditch. The suit quickly came off when the evenings began. I wasn't the accepted artist. I was trying to stay truthful to the area. The area's lost its soul now. Now all we see are these sort of like massive buildings, you know, empty streets, and they will remain empty until these lockdowns end. Since my last video, we had a little bit of news. Effectively, lockdowns are going to start to unwind in this country come end of April. Ridiculous, I know. Then they're going to sort of dangle the carrot and say, you can possibly get a takeaway beer outside a pub, but you must stand outside it and not go in. So that will be an incentive for the population that still buys into this ridiculous sort of thing that they call lockdowns. But like, it's a beautiful day, isn't it? Really beautiful. I apologise that I'm squinting so much. This is new. Look at this. That's the weird thing when you walk around these areas. You notice, well actually this has been here for a while, but that outdoor space is new. The Old King's Head is a fantastic pub. If you ever fancy a decent, I think they do decent pies there, and a pint, that's the place to go. Really borderline on the city now as we sort of approach. This pub is the sort of last remaining pub that could be defined as Shoreditch. And as soon as you leave this behind you, you start entering the city. One of the appeals, and I probably didn't convey it a moment ago when I said moving to the area, not just because of the proximity to the city, it's probably because during the weekends before lockdowns, the streets used to be very empty. It was almost kind of nice. You get the sort of peace and quiet of these empty streets. That kind of changed as businesses moved in here and we had all the texters moving in. We now seem to have gone back to that way. There's a slight appeal to that, for me at least. However, there's sadness because that's someone's business and that's someone's livelihood that's potentially gone. We don't know if he's ever coming back. We don't know. But let's keep walking. I think one of the, we just walked past it actually. The Vice offices are back there. Vice, there's a business that's changed dramatically just like Shoreditch has changed dramatically. When Vice first moved into Shoreditch in the early noughties, and they took over the Old Blue Last pub with Gavin McGuinness and his team, Vice was cutting edge. Vice had an edginess to them, and there was a sort of, you know, you were a little bit unsure what they would do, what they would write, and you know, they're always sort of borderline on the edge. Now Vice has gone completely the opposite way. They're now the most left-wing organisation since I think they've been bought by one of the massive conglomerates. I'm not sure if it's Time Warner or someone like that, but they got bought by these guys. And now they're preaching from the gospel of woke. I'm just going to sit here a moment, let the people go by. Okay, it allows me to get my breath back, and also means there's less people following me. There's nothing worse, I find, than when someone's following you on these quiet streets and they're listening to every word. I don't mind that you're following me, but when there's a person just sort of standing there watching, that's a little bit strange in my mind. I still haven't quite got used to the whole sort of holding the camera and talking endlessly. I find it far easier if people are moving past quickly, or there's no one around. But if someone's literally right there and you don't know who they are, don't know what their agenda is, then it's all a bit suspicious. Well, it's not suspicious, just a little bit unnerving. As you can see, this is now the city. This is really on the edge of the city. So some of these buildings are still sketchy, but I can guarantee this will probably not be here in 10 years. This will probably go, that will probably go. The Army Reserve Centre, is this going to stick around for long? I'm not sure if the British will even have an army soon, but the way that the government's sort of cutting back on its military spending. Some would say a good thing, some would say a bad thing, but I could think of a lot of other things they could be cutting their spending on before they cut on military. As you can see, this is all changed 10 years ago. None of this was here. These glass monstrosities or beautiful buildings, depending on which side of the argument you are on. None of this was here. And this, we head towards, we're going to head towards Liverpool Street, I think. A walk I used to do almost on a daily basis, because one of my first jobs was down at Liverpool Street. Finsbury Square over there. You might remember when I was cycling up Finsbury Square on one of my last couple of videos back. You'll see me cycling up that square. Really getting to know the streets if you're a subscriber to this channel. If you're not a subscriber, click that subscribe button. It costs nothing, and it helps me a lot. And also, if you feel like donating to this channel, I'm on Subscribestar, Pledstow and Ko-fi. Your support is greatly appreciated. A little bit of background noise over here. We've got the constant hum, Monday to Friday, Saturdays and Sundays even. The fact that they're always building, they're always, you can see this sort of, I don't know if you can see if this camera picks up another tall building going up here. A little bit of background on this building. If you remember the film Skyfall, this is the building that James Bond sneaks into in the film Skyfall, but it's made out to, I think, be Shanghai. I'll post a quick clip of it here, but it basically uses that building and the outside of the building. Well, he doesn't. The cinematographers, the directors, the director who made that film, they use that as the location. It's a constant building. Are they going to be? Every day there's always one street shut around here as a massive crane comes in and a new building goes up. If you rewind 20 years, and I wish I could have a time machine that just showed you the streets around here 20 years ago. Most of this didn't exist. There's been some real improvements, but there's also been a real loss to the sort of, what the place used to be. Now it's just a sort of, it's blank canvas that they seem intent on just sort of erasing and then building on, erasing and building on almost every single other year. This is the UBS headquarters, and I believe, I mean, it's almost like a Borg type space station. Impressive building. It does have a sort of emptiness when people aren't here, and people haven't been here for almost a year now. Since March, unless you're a sort of front office worker who needs to be at his trading screens and have a fast location, most office workers have stayed at home. And that's been detrimental to the small little businesses that depend on these big businesses, because all the pubs are struggling. Now, if they're massive private corporations, massive public houses, they probably cope fine, but it's the people that have one pub or two pubs that have really suffered. But it does allow them, while the people aren't here, to revamp the area. Now, I haven't noticed this construction going on since I was last up here. So they're obviously doing something. Usually there's a nice green space here, but not today. Maybe they're returfing or something. The rustle of trees. So it looks like they're probably, they're having a, let's have a quick look what they're doing. And we can't. You see what it's gonna look like. Usually there's a waterfall down there, and there's a lot of green grass, and it's one of the few areas in the city where you can come and you can just sort of have a little bit of a relaxation. I know that I've often gone there and just had a 10-minute time out just to get away from the stress of the city. And this, of course, is a dead end. But during a normal day, or after 5 o'clock, before the lockdown, this was a popular place. People would be standing outside here. People would be drinking their beers. Those days have been long gone. Will they ever come back? I don't know. I really don't know. This building that we see here is Liverpool Street Station. Now, Liverpool Street Station is one of London's biggest stations. I think the biggest being Waterloo, and maybe St Pancras, King's Cross. Some will probably correct me on that, but this is certainly one of the biggest. This services all locations if you want to head sort of north east of London, so East Anglia, and hence the reason, me being from Cambridge originally, I used this station a lot back in the day, either when I was first visiting London as a schoolboy, or visiting one's family once I was living in London, because it's far quicker to get the train, at least if the trains aren't broken, than it is often driving, because the roads are so congested these days. Public transport, though expensive, is reasonably fast and efficient. There are some incredibly slow trains going out of Liverpool Street Station, but if you get the fast one, you're okay. So normally, picture the scene. As you're walking up here, doesn't matter what time of the day it is, you're sort of dodging in and out of people. You're sort of going, oh, excuse me. You're trying to keep a path of least resistance and not knocking into anyone, and try to get to your office. But now, Ghostville. People will return, and I think people are itching to return, but it's just a case of when. And it's just, who knows? Let's have a look at how busy the station is. Very few people. Trains are still running. A typical day of the week, you would have people walking off the trains onto the platforms. I'm expecting when we get to the platform, we're going to see some people, but because they've effectively banned non-essential travel, it won't happen. This is a great sushi place, by the way. Good place to go for a sushi lunch, business lunch, really nice. I'm probably going to get told off for not wearing a mask. That noise is a tanning shop. So probably I need to go there, but it's incredibly bad for your health. I'm not going to go there. Let's have a look. I've got my neckerchief just in case, but we can see how empty Liverpool Street is. It's midday. It's very telling, isn't it? Midday, scattering of people, no football matches for people to go to, no offices for people to go to, not people going to their work, just people aren't travelling. That will change, I'm sure, but it is very telling. But like the last video, places that are allowed to stay open, places that sell junk food are allowed to stay open. Actually, we're going to end it where the place where I used to run a business, that tall building up there, it's called the Heron Tower. Well, it's now called the Salesforce Tower because the woke Salesforce company took it over. I used to work up there on one of those crossbars, had a window seat, beautiful building. And now, look at this. I mean, it's very empty. Great if you're skateboarding, but the problem is if you skateboard around here, you get told off by all the private security. They don't want you having any fun. I'm sure the police will probably get involved as well. This is all new. This is one of the advantages of progress. This was not that attractive back in the day, and now it looks very beautiful, and I think it's just about ready to open. But it's all changed. We head over here, head that way, we get to the Bank of England. But I think this is where I'll probably leave it because I don't want to sort of ramble on too much. That was my sort of walk from Shoreditch to the city, and this is the sort of the heart of the city. You might remember, I think it was this building. No, it was. I think it was this building. No, this building from the first Mission Impossible movie. Ethan Hunt had his sort of safety house up there in that building. Could be wrong, could be that one. I'll double check it. Thank you for watching. It's been another one of my videos about me walking and probably not showing you that much. But once again, it's 12 o'clock. The last video ended at 12, so it's a perfect time to end this video at 12. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.